There's an old Japanese belief that if you hold on to an object too long, without ever thanking it, without ever really using it, it doesn't just collect dust, it grows a temper. That's not something I made up for a thumbnail. It's real folklore, and it's part of the reason an entire country empties its closets every single December. Today, we're borrowing that mindset. 7 categories of things sitting in your house right now that Japanese tradition says should already be gone. This isn't a minimalism lecture, and it's not about turning your home into an empty white box. It's about a specific Japanese habit of mind, part Shinto tradition, part practical philosophy, that treats letting go as an act of respect, not waste. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which 7 things to look for, why Japanese tradition treats them differently than just junk, and the right way to actually let each one go. Here's the backdrop you need. In Japan, there's a tradition called osoji, literally big cleaning. It traces back to a Heian period court ritual called susuharai, soot sweeping, and by the Edo period, it had spread to ordinary homes. Today, families across Japan still do it every December, top to bottom, before the new year arrives. The stated reason is that a New Year deity, Toshigami, is said to visit clean homes and bring good fortune. Whether you take that literally or just take it as clean house, clear head, the timing isn't random, and it connects to something even stranger. That old folklore I mentioned about objects growing spirits actually comes from the same tradition. According to the medieval tale it originates from, people cleaned out old tools specifically so they wouldn't hang on to them long enough to become resentful. I'll be honest with you, the popular version of that story, any object comes alive at exactly 100 years, is a simplified retelling. The real medieval tale is more specific. It's about objects thrown away carelessly without any gratitude after years of faithful use. That distinction matters because it's the actual principle we're using today. Not get rid of old stuff, get rid of stuff you're not respecting. So here are 7 categories Japanese custom treats exactly that way. Item 1. Last year's charms, arrows, and New Year decorations you never took down. If you've ever visited a shrine in Japan, you've probably seen omamori, small fabric charms for things like safe travel, health, or good luck in exams. Here's the part most people outside Japan don't know. These charms are generally treated as good for about 1 year. After that, the custom isn't to just toss them in a drawer forever. It's to bring them back to a shrine where they're respectfully burned, often during a January bonfire event called Dondo-yaki. Now think about your own version of this. Not literal omamori. Maybe it's last year's calendar still on the wall, a holiday wreath from 2 seasons ago, or a good luck trinket someone gave you that's been sitting in a drawer for 3 years doing absolutely nothing. The principle isn't superstition, it's this. Some things are meant to serve a season, not a lifetime. Keeping them past their moment doesn't extend the luck. It just clutters the shelf where new luck could sit. Picture the alternative. Instead of a shelf cluttered with 3 New Year's worth of decorations, you keep exactly 1 season's worth. Retire the rest with a quiet thanks, and make room for whatever this year actually brings. Quick test. If it was tied to a specific date, wish, or season, and that date has passed, it's done its job. Let it go. But charms are the easy one. Here's a category most people are actively protecting instead of releasing. Item 2, the chipped mug, the cracked plate, the wobbly-handled pan you keep just in case. Japan has a word for the discomfort of wasting something, Mottainai. It's often translated as what a waste, but it's really closer to a feeling of respect for the resource, the maker, the object itself. It's the same idea behind kintsugi, the art of repairing broken pottery with gold instead of hiding the crack. Here's where people get Mottainai backwards, though. The philosophy isn't never get rid of anything. It's use something fully, on purpose, or let it go with respect. A chipped mug shoved to the back of the cabinet, never used, never repaired, isn't being respected. It's being ignored. That's not Mottainai. That's just clutter with a guilty conscience. So the real Japanese-style move is a fork in the road. Either actually repair it, even a simple visible mend counts, or actually retire it. What it can't keep doing is sitting there half alive, taking up a shelf, guilt-tripping you every time you open the cupboard. Imagine opening that cabinet and every single mug is one you'd actually hand a guest. No hesitation, no, not that one, it's chipped. That's what actually honoring an object looks like. Rule of thumb: if it's damaged and you haven't repaired it in the last year, you've already answered the question. That's the damaged and ignored category. There's a smaller, sharper version of this same idea. Literally sharper. Item 3. Bent needles, dull pins, and the small worn-out tools sitting in the bottom of a sewing box or junk drawer. This is one of my favorite Japanese customs because it's oddly specific. At certain temples on set days in February and December, there's a ceremony called Harikuyo, a memorial service for broken sewing needles. People bring their old, bent, snapped needles and press them into a soft block of tofu, a gentle final resting place, as a way of thanking them for their work before retiring them for good. Some shrines even hold a similar memorial for old scissors and cutting tools. You don't need a temple ceremony to apply the principle. The point is simple: small, sharp, it still technically works tools are exactly the kind of thing that quietly pile up because no single one feels worth the decision. A dull pair of scissors, 3 half-empty tape dispensers, a pin cushion that's more rust than pin. Picture a drawer where every tool actually cuts, actually works, actually gets picked up without a wince. That's the entire goal. Not fewer tools for the sake of fewer, but tools you trust. Quick test. If you hesitate before using it because you already know it'll disappoint you, it's not a tool anymore. It's clutter with a job title. Small, sharp objects are one thing. What about the objects in your house that actually have faces? Item 4, and this is the one connected to that folklore from the intro. Old dolls, plush toys, and figurines you've been keeping out of guilt, not love. In Japan, there's a real annual event called Ningyo Kuyo, a doll funeral. Every October, a temple in Kyoto holds a formal memorial service where people bring dolls they've outgrown, prayers are said, and the dolls are respectfully retired rather than thrown in the trash. It's directly tied to that old belief about objects gaining a kind of presence over time, the idea being that a human-shaped object deserves a proper goodbye, not a garbage bag. Now here's the honest caveat, because I promised you no exaggeration. Most Japanese households aren't literally holding funerals for every stuffed animal. This is a specific, if fairly well-known, ceremonial custom, not a universal daily habit. But the underlying instinct is worth stealing regardless. Things that resemble people or hold real memories deserve a moment of acknowledgement before they go, even if that moment is just you, quietly saying thank you. That reframe changes everything about how guilt clutter works. You're not throwing away a piece of your childhood. You're closing a chapter on purpose, with respect, instead of just avoiding the decision for another decade. Picture the shelf that's currently a graveyard of half-remembered stuffed animals turning into a small, deliberate display of only the ones that actually still mean something. Quick test, pick it up. If the honest answer is, I don't even remember why I kept this, it's already told you what to do. Objects that used to belong to a child are one kind of hard to release. Here's a completely different kind. Item 5. The books you keep telling yourself you'll get back to. This one comes from a more modern, but still Japanese source, Marie Kondo's KonMari method, which tidies belongings by category rather than by room, starting with clothes and moving through books, papers, miscellaneous items, and finally sentimental things. Her advice on unread books is blunt. When you catch yourself saying, "I'll read this someday," her experience is that someday usually means never. It's worth noting this isn't the only Japanese approach. There's also an older philosophy called Danshari, which came before Kondo's method and asks a slightly different question. Not does this spark joy, but does my relationship with this object still serve who I am right now? Different logic, same outcome for that stack of books you haven't opened since a move 2 apartments ago. Picture a shelf where every single spine is something you've actually read, are actually reading, or are genuinely about to start this month. That's not a smaller library. That's a library that's actually yours. Quick test. If you can't remember the last chapter you read, or you don't remember buying it at all, it's not for later. It's already answered. Books are physical and countable. This next one is invisible until you actually walk through your own front door. Item 6, and this one's about a specific spot in your home, not an object, the pileup at your own front door. In Japan, the entryway, the Genkan, isn't treated as an afterthought. It's a small, sunken area, usually a step down from the main floor, and its entire job is to mark the line between the outside world and the private, clean inside of the home. Shoes come off there. Outside dirt stays there. In traditional thinking tied to Shinto ideas of purity, that boundary isn't just practical, it's symbolic. A Genkan buried under scattered shoes, unopened mail, and forgotten packages isn't just messy. In Japanese etiquette guides, it's described as a visible sign of disorder and disrespect for the home and for whoever walks through it, including you. Here's the pattern interrupt worth sitting with. You probably don't think of your entryway as storage. But if you're honest, it's often the single most cluttered 3 square feet in your entire house. And it's the first thing you and every guest sees every single time. Picture walking in the door to a clear floor, shoes in their place, mail already sorted, nothing to step over. That 2-second transition changes how the rest of your evening feels before you've even taken your coat off. Quick test. Stand at your own front door right now, mentally. If you can't picture clear floor, this is your item. That's a boundary you cross every day without noticing it. The last item is less about a place and more about a habit of mind. Item 7, the big one. Anything you're keeping purely just in case, that has nothing to do with your actual life right now. This is where Danshari, that older Japanese philosophy I mentioned earlier, really earns its name. It's built from 3 ideas: refuse, dispose, separate. And at its core is one honest question. Is your relationship with this object still active? Or did that relationship end a long time ago and you just never said goodbye? This is different from does it spark joy, and it's different from is it damaged? It's about things that are perfectly fine, perfectly functional, and completely irrelevant to who you are today. The equipment for a hobby you tried once, clothes for a job you don't have anymore, a gadget you bought for emergencies that you wouldn't even remember how to use in one. None of these items did anything wrong. They're just not in a relationship with your current life anymore. And keeping them anyway is its own quiet kind of clutter, the mental kind, not just the physical kind. Picture your just-in-case shelf shrinking down to the handful of things that genuinely earn that label, not everything you're scared to decide about. Quick test, and it's the same question Danshari always comes back to. Not, might I need this, but am I actually still using this right now in the life I'm actually living? If the honest answer is no, the decision's already made. So that's 7 places to look. Expired charms and old decorations, damaged things you're not repairing or releasing, worn out small tools, dust collecting dolls and figures, unread books, a cluttered entryway, and the just-in-case pile that stopped being about in case a long time ago. None of this is really about Japan specifically, and it's definitely not about owning less for its own sake. It's about a habit of mind. Treat things with enough respect to actually use them, or enough respect to let them go properly. That's the whole philosophy in one sentence. Whether you call it Mottainai, Danshari, or just common sense with better branding. Your home isn't going to get more peaceful by adding one more organizer bin. It gets there by finally answering the question you've been avoiding for every item on this list. Does this still belong here? If one of these 7 hit a little too close to home, tell me which one in the comments. I want to know which category is winning in your house right now. Like this video if it was useful, subscribe if you want more of this, and I'll see you in the next one.